Digital marketing is ever-changing, and marketers must be aware of the impact that digital plays. But, more importantly, we need to look beyond the data and analytics and consider the business impact, more than just conversions and impressions. Marketing and sales are full of myths, misconceptions, and sometimes flat-out lies. Join us as we get out of the echo chamber and move beyond vanity metrics.
Hello and welcome to the Rethink Marketing Podcast, where we strive to challenge the status quo of today's marketing issues. I'm Paul Frodge, joined by Mr. Marketing, and for today's conversation, the driven digital development diplomat, Colin Jeffries. Colin, how are you today?
Oh, Paul, I'm feeling very diplomatic, which I think when you're talking about digital marketing is really important because there are a lot of different schools of thought in digital, and sometimes you do have to be diplomatic in order to bridge the gaps here. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Our last episode, we talked a lot about politics, and now we're going to be more diplomatic as we talk about digital, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Hopefully we can all agree that digital marketing is a little less divisive than political season. Well, Paul, what are we rethinking today?
Yeah, Colin, what we're rethinking today is the elements of the digital marketers need to consider other than just metrics. You mentioned the vanity metrics, and it goes far beyond reporting, in my opinion. And you hit it on the head when you talk about business impact. The business impact is something that higher level executives and organizations are consistently looking at, whether it be revenue, whatever the KPIs are in the organization, whether it be looking at top line, bottom line. There's many different areas, but us as marketers on the agency side or even on the brand side, the marketing teams, need to be considering that business impact and having those intelligent conversations so that they remain relevant in the overall decision making, from marketing spend, go-to-market strategies. It's all about looking at those opportunities within the organization where it's really going to move the needle. Obviously, reporting is very important, looking at conversions, impressions, website traffic. That all is the tactical work that actually delivers the results, but we need to back up and look a little bit bigger picture when it comes to that business impact within organizations.
Absolutely, Paul. I think you put it really well. And the nice thing is, marketers in today's ecosystem have to be very data-driven and data-centric. And that is great when we're talking about business impact, because a marketer who understands cost per thousand impressions and conversion rate and return on investment, return on ad spend, et cetera, it's really easy for them to then shift that focus to something like business impact, meaning contribution to EBITDA or net margin or overall revenue or top line, right? Whatever that is, they're able to then have those conversations with the C-suite, probably with the finance team, to say, hey, when we invest X dollars over here, we get Y dollars again in top line, in EBITDA, and net profit, whatever that key performance indicator is, to measure business impact. And I think that's really cool because 15 years ago, marketers were still struggling with the difference between marketing as a science and marketing as an art, and emotive marketing and branding. And now we're a lot more focused on KPIs and metrics.
We've talked about this in past episodes as well with the Steve Wanamaker quote, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half.
Yes.
And it's so important to me when we're talking about really moving that needle and being able to really track what is working. And I feel like that quote is still relevant today. There's a lot of businesses that are not figuring out the throughput from where leads are coming from all the way and tracking that through revenue. There's many different reasons why. It's an ERP system isn't compatible with the metrics coming through, whether you're using Looker Studio or something of that nature. It's a lot of times what we're doing with clients is implementing HubSpot, where it's the single source of truth, and it's an opportunity from the marketing hub and the sales hub to really put those two together. Because how awesome is it when you can go into a client and talk about the opportunities where you spent this amount of money and we ran these campaigns and it delivered these results and it generated $2 million for your organization, versus, hey, we ran these campaigns, there was a couple clicks to the website, 3 contact form fills, 2 of them were spam, and I have no idea if you delivered on selling that one other contact form fill. Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, can you let us know if that converted to something? That's when it becomes more of the tactical. The strategy is something that I'm preaching with our team more and more often, and then coming up with that strategy and then moving into that tactical piece as well. So it all works together. It's all very, very important. But I think you got to look at backing up a little bit and trying to figure out how the two ends meet.
You make really, really good points, Paul. I think back to the sort of traditional radio days when you would run a campaign for, say, 8 weeks. And after 3, 4, 5 weeks of people hearing the spot, you'd look at phone calls and you'd say, okay, are people singing the jingle? Are they mentioning radio when they call? When we're doing sits with them, if we're doing meetings, if we're doing sales opportunities, like are they citing radio? Are they saying that they heard of us on radio, whatever? And it was just very sort of amorphous and there was a lot of guesswork. And now to your point, we can have this sort of end-to-end system where we're looking at contribution from different media platforms. We're understanding where people are in the buying cycle or the sales cycle, and we're able to be a lot more sophisticated and strategic with the content that we're delivering to them and with the overall strategy that we're nurturing those leads through the whole system.
You bring up some good years and also some painful years of my advertising days in radio. 100% commission, and you sell an advertiser a 3-month schedule, and you're almost afraid to give them a call because you're afraid that the cash register wasn't ringing, business is down. You play a small part on a radio ad campaign versus their overall marketing. And it really is not being able to track it appropriately. And, those were the days, like I said, a lot of fun memories from back in those days. But at the same time, it was a hamster wheel. It was, hey, it's not working. And then you had to try to have even higher level conversations about we're just one part of the media mix. But if it wasn't working and they were new to radio, you were the first thing that they said it isn't working and they'd move on to something else.
No, I believe that. I think about back in the days when I did buy a lot of radio from a brand side perspective and having those conversations about, with the business owners in particular about we really don't need to include a phone number. We don't need to include an address. What we need to do is just hammer the value proposition, or back then we called them USPs, unique selling proposition. We have to hit the USP, the UVP. We've got to just hammer that home because radio is really good at driving awareness and driving some branding. It's not great at having people remember your tracking phone number or your address. And if I can tell someone one thing in a 30-second spot, do I want them to remember my phone number or do I want them to remember my USP? And so when I'm thinking about the difference between digital, where I can get somebody introduced to my brand, I can walk them through a nurturing cycle, I can track different touch points, I can send them content, I can deliver content and deliver value to them, etc. When I think about that versus the traditional side, well, traditional side, lots of people are getting touched and you're not really sure where they are in the buying cycle or what content you can deliver that will provide value. So this sort of digital end-to-end idea is extremely powerful and can be a massive competitive differentiator for businesses that use it correctly.
Yeah, you mentioned a week or so ago a Fortune magazine article that was more of an opinion piece, and it was talking about TV is dead and the full service marketing agencies and the opportunity or non opportunities there as we move forward. So you think about the big ad agencies that are out there, and they were always leading with a creative piece that was always a TV campaign, is what that opinion piece was talking about. I do still believe that for certain businesses, traditional TV, radio makes sense in certain arenas. It just depends on what the go to market strategy is. But it can work really well with digital. And that's where I was trying to get at earlier in the conversation, is that digital really is the opportunity to track all the way through revenue and tying those pieces together. So I really like the idea of those trackable metrics so that us as marketers can really see the true value and the revenue and that business impact that it's bringing.
You bring up an interesting point, perhaps inadvertently, Paul, but I'm going to jump on it anyway, which
Okay.
is a lot of agencies of record used to basically be compensated on the media that they would buy for a particular business partner or a particular brand that they were representing, right? They were sort of AORs, agencies of record, and they would go place these big media buys because it was difficult during their sort of heyday for a brand person to go directly to the service provider and procure media. Now that's flipped, where any marketing coordinator can go set up a Simplify or a Choosel or a Trade Desk account, and they can go buy sophisticated digital marketing on their own, sans agency partners. So what we have to think about now is, how are the agencies coming to market in a way where they're delivering exponential value, because they have to now charge the advertiser rather than charge the media distribution platform, right? So the compensation model has changed, and that means that agencies have to provide, I think, more value, more expertise, and candidly, just better ideas. Because when a brand is going to the agency and saying, "We have this idea, we have this concept, we think this is going to work," et cetera, then the agency is basically just taking an order, versus the agency saying, "Hey, we know you guys are doing a lot of, Google Ads or a lot of YouTube pre-roll or a lot of Spotify ad network or whatever. Have you considered this over here? We can set it up for you. We can run it. Here are the key performance indicators. Here's how it integrates with your end-to-end tracking system, etc." I think that's where the best agencies are bringing a lot of value. What are you seeing?
I agree with that. And looking at agencies and the opportunity where retaining clients, and it keeps on getting shorter. The time frame of clients switching agencies is about 18 months, and it keeps on getting shorter and shorter. And it's because everybody is getting put into a commodity. What I keep hearing is clients switching agencies because it's just tactical work and there's no strategy behind it. And so it's interesting when clients or prospects are coming to us, or we're going out and talking to prospects, they want to just move what they're currently doing with the budget over to us. And we are oftentimes putting a timeout on that and taking a step back, because we don't want to be an agency where 12 months, 18 months from now, they're moving on to the next one because somebody else is doing it cheaper, less expensive. So business impact is something that you continue to hear me talk about. And having those conversations with the higher level executives within organizations really provides the opportunity for retaining and looking at things differently. Because I rethinking just us taking over a Google Ads campaign that they've always done with the same budget that hasn't produced results. Yeah, I believe that we could do it better. But at the same time, is that the way to go to market? And that is, you think about it this way, Colin, is if an organization has 10 different agencies, one doing Google Ads, another one doing SEO, another one doing website development, another one doing traditional media buys, so forth and so on, is there really a strategy to support those tactics? You mentioned a marketing coordinator that can just set up a campaign through the trade desk and just run it themselves. Yeah, I believe that can happen. But was there an overarching strategy versus just setting up an account and running some ads?
Paul, I appreciate that you brought up agency turnover, or I'll say relationship turnover, because what we're seeing today is chief marketing officers are staying an unprecedentedly short amount of time, which is in a lot of cases between 18 and 24 months. So we're turning over the head of marketing every year and a half to 2 years. We're turning over agency partners every year and a half to 2 years. There's a lot of churn. And every time that happens, the strategy has to fundamentally change. When a CMO exits and a new CMO is brought on, strategy has to change. When a core agency partner is jettisoned and another one is brought on, the strategy has to change. We can't just run the same strategic approach across a bunch of different cogs in the wheel, so to speak, right? Like if the wheel's turning the right direction, maybe we keep a lot of the things that are good, but there's a reason that the CMO is leaving. There's a reason that we're looking for a new agency partner, et cetera. So when I think about that, that's a lot of whiplash to go from here's our core strategy, what's driving our business, to wait a minute, we're switching CMOs, we're switching agency partners, we're switching strategies. For a business to be sustainable over the long term, I just don't know if that's the way to do it, which is why I think what we'll see with a lot of businesses that are doing really, really well and eating up market share and taking share of wallet and having that business impact that you talk about, whether that's top line revenue growth or EBITDA growth or net profit growth or even employee retention, right? There are so many things that can fall into that business impact column. We just have to understand what's the overall business strategy. And then how do we help the CMO, the marketing agencies, the marketing team, et cetera, really tie into that and drive it forward.
Yeah, looking at that too is the CMO turnover, as you mentioned, but also if there's a director of sales or VP of sales, and how the two departments are working together. A lot of times that VP of sales also gets tagged on and marketing, so it's the
Yes.
VP of sales and marketing. And what traditionally I've witnessed is that they don't really understand marketing very well. Some of them do. I'm not stereotyping, but a lot of them just get that title and try to make the two work together. So where we can help make their lives easier and help with marketing and sales integration, I think that makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, this has been a great conversation. Talking a little bit of theory about business impact and how that matters to today's digital marketers. Anything else you would say before we end the conversation?
No, I would just say as you're planning for 2025, your budgets, looking at how you're going to go to market for your marketing teams, is to really be thinking about that business impact. Go have a conversation with the CEO or CFO or Chief Growth Officer. Find out what their goals are for the new year so that you can all be aligned.
Well said. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on the Rethink Marketing Podcast. Until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions and keep rethinking your business impact. We'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If people want to connect with us, where should they go, Paul?
RethinkMarketingPodcast.com, Colin. What can listeners do to help us in return for the sage marketing wisdom and our pithy humor?
They can help us by leaving a review on their favorite platform or sharing this episode with a fellow marketer to help them cut through the clutter.
Well, until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions.